Hi everybody, it's Amy at Crafty Cat. We're in a different location today. I am at my kitchen table. I had a viewer request to show some of the things that I do with the sewing machine. She said that she is new at journal making and so just, wanted to get an idea of what we use the sewing machine for. I am going to preface this entire video by saying I am not an expert at sewing. I am not a seamstress. I am not anything. I taught myself how to sew when I started making journals 5 years ago. So I have a very basic sewing machine. It's a Singer heavy duty. It basically has 2 stitches. It doesn't have a lot of fancy stitches, but I love it because it's a heavy duty, and so it's kind of great for sewing paper and, thick items. Like right now I have a denim needle in there because like yesterday I stitched all this and it's pretty thick with all the layers, and then I also stitched it onto the cover of the frog journal. So this, of course, is an example of some of the things I do with sewing. But again, like I said, I'm sure that I will do things that will make people who, learn to sew properly crazy. And I don't know the terms for things and all that. So I'm just prefacing the video by saying that. Okay, so this, for example, yesterday I did this and I just layered all kinds of pieces of fabric, little squiggles, bunches of thread, like, this kind of stuff that you end up getting when you tear fabric. You get all the little threads that come off. Save those and maybe put them in a jar or something like that, and then you can use them on clusters and tags and all those type of things. So obviously this has all been stitched with a sewing machine. I have zigzag stitch and straight stitch, so that's what I have on this. I have some materials that are maybe you wouldn't think of stitching. There's this funny web net stuff. Let me see, I'm just grabbing something. Like this that my daughter found me. It's a trim that she got at Hobby Lobby. Oh, there went one of my bags of paper. I also got some in Happy Mail in a lighter color, but this type of thing is super fun to put in here. You can use cheesecloth paper. These are Tim Holtz ephemera pieces, like from his field notes and other ephemera bits that he has. This is one of my frogs from my digital. This one's in Croak on the mushroom here. And I've layered it onto a piece of manila file folder just to give it some added strength, because when it was just copy paper, it was just too thin and I was worried about it getting bent and torn and all those kind of things. I mean, granted, it could still tear because it is paper, but it's definitely much thicker now than it was when I cut it out. So, and you can see I've stitched right through the frog and everything, and I'm fine with that. If you don't like that, obviously you can stitch, around it or do however you like. I just went right on through it and then stitched the whole thing right onto the cover here. So that is an example of something that you can do with sewing. And I'm sorry if the light's not super great. I tried. I have my big kitchen windows right there, so it does let in quite a bit of light, and then I have one lamp right here. I just don't have a lot of places to plug stuff in where I'm located right now, so I apologize for that. I kind of wanted to show you guys where we're at. I don't have all the ephemera in here because I took it out to stitch pages together, but all these pages are stitched together because it's 2 pieces of fabric. There's one piece on this side and another piece on this side. That was just to help prevent seeing the plain back. You know how some fabrics are white on the back? So that's kind of what I was preventing. This is another example of what you can do with stitching. And again, this is just all paper and fabric layered on top of this other fabric that is the page. And then I've just crazy stitched all around. Like some things I've gone around completely and gone up and around the whole thing, and I've done all that with a sewing machine. And then of course tags are great to stitch. It just gives them another sort of texture or appeal, something to look at, adds interest. So I've just stacked some fabrics up here. There's some sari silk and other strings and whatever, and I've just stitched straight across, and then I just stitch all the way around. That also helps if you're layering like This is a piece of cardstock that I've put my copy paper onto to give it some body. And that helps hold your layers together too, if your glue isn't great or whatever. And then all these things have been stitched around too, just to either add interest or stabilize, or like this pocket has been stitched onto this piece of fabric, since I just didn't feel comfortable with gluing the paper on. You could with a Fabri-Tac or something like that. I don't use Fabri-Tac, so I just choose to stitch it on instead. And then this one I did not do any stitching on, simply because it's going in and out of this pocket, and I didn't want any bulk because this pocket isn't very, you know, very thick or wide, I guess. So you can see that that's tricky to get in there as it is. So I didn't want to add fabric and stitching to that. There's quite a bit of stitching. This tag's all stitched around back in here. A lot of these pieces have got some stitching around, like this is a pocket. It just helps hold stuff together, but like this tag isn't stitched at all, and you don't have to, you can. I just stapled the fabric up there that time, and I'm sorry if my camera's wiggling. If I bump anything, it moves, so I apologize. It's just, this is the only way I could even do this video. So anyhow, this just gives you some ideas of you know, what you can do. So this piece I have sewn at the top and sewn around the edge. There is a pocket over here that can have some items added to it. I stitched these two pieces of fabric that are also on here together so they don't open, but there is a big pocket here. And then when I stitch all of the pages together, there'll be a big pocket at the back. I just haven't gotten that far yet. But I wanted to show you guys where I was at, and plus this is a perfect example of things that we stitch when we are making junk journals. So like you can see around here, I've stitched, added all kinds of threads and things. I added a staple too. That is something you do have to be careful with. I knew I was going to stitch up here, so I made sure to put the staple down further. You don't obviously want to be stitching too close to the staple because you could break your needle. So yeah, you don't want to do that. Here's another example of something you can do. Make a little notebook, add some fabrics to the top, stitch across it. You can just do paper too and stitch. Like if you wanted to, you could just do all paper across here, paper scraps and what have you, and stitch across it, or even just leave it plain and stitch across it. It just adds another element when you stitch. This is a piece of like, oh, you can't see, sorry, like a measuring tape. I'm not really sure. It's made out of some kind of canvasy material that's been coated in something to, you know, to help keep it or make it last. This is just a piece of cardstock that I've stamped on and stitched through all of that with all the strings and all of that. Here's another example of stitching just a cluster. You can just make little clusters to add to things. There's a piece of paper. This is a piece of paper, kind of a canvasy from a old ledger. I did add a staple to the middle of that, but the rest is all stitched, crazy stitched this way and that way. That's one cool thing with junk journaling, especially if you're kind of doing the grungy feel like this journal is. It can definitely be, you know, haphazard and straight stitch, zigzag, all on the same piece. And this is that pocket that we just did. And I would have filmed stitching this, but I did the video before I got the comment that asked if I could show some of the stitching things. So that is what we have. So I thought what we could do real quick is make some just a few little items, and then I'll stitch them so that you can see how I do that. And like I said, I just do straight stitch or zigzag. I don't have you know, a lot of real fancy stitches or anything, but I definitely think it adds something to whatever it is you're making. So we'll just cover this real quick. I'll do one. This is a journaling card. So this started its life as book page, and I use the book pages, as you've probably seen, for gluing. So like when I do this piece, I'll put the glue on it. stick it onto here, and then eventually this gets all gluey. So then when you tear it out, you can just fold it over, and I just cut it down. I think it's like 3 by 4 or whatever size you want for your pocket. And this can either become a journaling card or it could become a pocket. Either way. If you want it to be a pocket for your journal, you just put a thumb notch here and glue 3 sides and put it on your journal, and that gives you a pocket that can be all collaged, or you can use it as a journaling card, collage it, or whatever you choose, and cover the back with a plain piece of paper, you know, for that. So I thought first we could do some paper things, and I'll stitch that. And we can also do some fabric, and I'll stitch that. So I hope you're all having a good day. Sorry I didn't say that first. I just got like right into the groove there. I forgot to bring my ink down, so I'm not going to ink this. Normally I probably would, because I can't seem to make anything without inking on it. So yeah, I hope you're all having a good day. I'm having a good day. I was a big crybaby last night. Because I went to my son's last band concert, and his teacher, which was also my daughter's teacher, is retiring, and so they were kind of, you know, doing a special thing for him too, for the seniors and for him, and yeah, it just made me all blubbery. So I'm just using scraps. I think this is my porch prints. So if you are looking like for some numbers or whatever, she has some neat, or they, I'm not really sure, have pretty cool digitals for that. So anyway, I'm pretty sure that's where I got that. It's just in my scrap bags over here. But yeah, it was super fun to see the kids perform and see their teacher. He, you know, he got pretty emotional. He's been teaching for, I think it's 35 years, 36 years, something like that. And it's in the school district that he grew up in, you know, went to when he was a kid and all those kind of things. So he's really been involved in his hometown school district from the beginning. He did teach somewhere else when he first started, because, you know, that's usually the way it is. You rarely get into your like desired position right away. But anyway, yeah, so it was kind of, I mean, it was good, but it was just sad and happy all at the same time. So it was fun. It was a very long, I think I'm gonna use Tim Holtz. That's from one of my digitals. It was a pretty long concert, because they always, the senior concert is always a little bit longer. But anyway, it was great. The jazz band played, and it was a lot of fun. So this is just a piece of deli paper that I have gotten some spatters and whatnot on. Some paint there. And a piece just popped off, so it's fine. I'll just take it off. And so the fun part about maybe doing this is that you'll be able to see the book page through there. Not that you have to, but... Another piece came off. Hopefully there'll be some paint that actually stays on there, huh? But yeah, it's kind of fun when you see the book page through it. It's got some coffee on it and some other spatters of paint and ink and whatever. So that's just a fun little piece. And then we can add maybe a piece of Tim Holtz on here, just for something fun. So yeah, but it was a lovely evening. Super fun to listen to all the different bands. I usually mostly hear either marching band or concert band, because that's just what my kids are in. But the jazz band was really great. Really great. So, oh my goodness. That just doesn't want to stay. I think I'm going to actually put a little glue back here, or there's not going to be anything left. This is not Tim Holtz, this mushroom. I'm sure you know that. But anyway, it is from... Okay, well, that just disintegrated. Maybe don't use the deli paper with the paint on it, because it doesn't stay together. Oh, I do have one of my toads I could put on there, but he's not a very big one. Yeah, I don't know what I was saying, but anyway, that was a great concert. Maybe I'll just put some butterflies and then toad up here maybe. I like that number 5. I think I'm just not even gonna worry about that deli paper back there because it's just falling apart. I think I'm gonna tear this because I obviously don't need this whole piece. And now I really wish I would have remembered my ink, because this kind of stuff really makes me want to ink, because it's so new looking, but we're just gonna do it anyway. Yeah, it was super fun. A little concert. Yeah, we'll just do that. That will work since my paint is all falling off of my deli paper there. And turn that a little bit. Sorry about the wiggling camera. I'm really trying not to jiggle it too much, but it's just hooked onto a tripod on the table, and so if the table moves, it moves. Okay. And then we'll put some fabric or something up there across the top, because that's what I would do with a journaling card, same as a tag, really. And not that you have to, but why not? This was gifted to me by Karen. Thank you, Karen. She spoiled me rotten. Extraordinarily kind to do that. So this weekend we're gonna go out and have a nice graduation dinner for my son. So that will be fun. I'm actually gonna use this little bit lighter one. So just add whatever you have, you know, cheesecloth is great, coffee stained, what do you call it? Sari silk is great. I'm just gonna put a little glue here to tack this, just to hold it down until I can stitch it. Yeah, just use what you got. If you know, we don't all have the exact same stuff, so, and I get that. I'm gonna actually put another fabric underneath there. And I'm gonna keep the threads. But of course, if you don't like the threads, get rid of them. And I think I'll do a little tuck on that, just a little fold. Pleat, pucker, or whatever you're supposed to call it. I always say something wrong. Because I am sort of clueless. Like I said, all of the stitching and stuff that I do, I just completely taught myself. I don't know a whole lot about stitching or sewing. I kind of just like to put it all sort of this way and that way, you know what I mean? So I'm just putting a little bit of glue on the back to hold it down in some spots. Because I like to put some folds or pleats, puckers. And I'm sorry, I may not sound as quite as loud, and that's because I don't have my microphone attached, just because it was hard with when I go to sew. Plus, you probably don't need the sewing machine being louder. That's probably not fun. Okay, so I'm gonna set that aside, and then we'll do just a tag, and that will all get, you know, figured out when it gets stitched. So I know it looks like a mess right now with the fabric looping up and all that, but it will lay down obviously once it's stitched. Okay, so on this tag, we can do more fabric maybe. And I just have random fabrics over here that I've been using for the frog journal, so they're kind of a mess and all over the place, but it's okay. It will give you the idea. And this is going to be super similar to what we just did the other day. I'm just going to be adding pieces of fabric and then I'm going to stitch all over it. So and I will need to back them with something as well. I just realized that. I think I'm actually going to pucker this one a little bit instead of doing it totally flat like I did for the pocket. So I'm just adding like kind of little folds or pleats here and there, and then I will just make this even with the little notch. But if you like it totally flat, do it totally flat. Like, just do you, you know what I'm saying? Maybe I want this instead. Maybe a butterfly. I do love these little fabrics with the birds and butterflies. I'll do this one down here. And just use whatever fabric you have. Like if you just have some left over from a project or, you know, whatever little snippets you can find. Sorry, the light is just not great. I like the stitching over there, but I think I'm going to take just a little more off of this side. Maybe. So my daughter, while she's working right now, but while she lived at the dorm, they did Taco Tuesday every Tuesday, her and her friends, and so they're gonna come over here tonight and do Taco Tuesday. I thought that was funny. It's cute. So yeah, I don't have to cook. I'm like, sure thing. Sounds great. All right, I don't know what else I want on there. Let's see. I have stuff I've dropped. Hold on. Got this. And what about this one? This little strip right here. And you can see, I'm just eyeballing it, however. Again, it doesn't have to be all perfect unless that's the way you like it. If you like it like that, that's totally fine. You'll just have to take the time to maybe, you know, measure, maybe cut it with a rotary cutter instead of doing what I'm doing if you want that cleaner look. Pucker it just a little bit. Because that's the way I want it. All right. And then we need maybe a piece of this. Hit my light. I don't want that to go all the way up because I'm feeling like it's too up and down, if you know what I mean. This is the end where the selvage was, selvage edge, so it's kind of, it doesn't fray, is what I'm saying. I'm gonna have those there and they'll get stitched down, so. Let us see, what else do we have that we could use? Oh, we could use a ticket would be kind of fun, huh? This is Tim Holtz fabric. I'm not exactly sure like what collection or whatever. This was gifted to me at some point and I'm not sure when. So I apologize for that. I've hoarded it for a super long time. I tend to do that with Tim Holtz stuff. Especially the fabric, just because it is sort of hard for me to find around here. Yeah, I'll just put that like that, I think. Or do I want it like that? That would help break that up a little bit, and then I can add something else up at the top. I might take this one off. Sorry if you can hear him posh, being a little piglet over there. He's eating. Since I'm in the kitchen, I think I'll put it up here instead. Okay, so I know that looks all bumpy and lumpy, but once we stitch it, you'll see it will turn out fine. And I don't think I need to add anything else up at the top of that one. I think it's good. And we just need to put something on the back of our two pieces. If I can find some plain stuff. This is just some, who knows, construction paper of some kind. And then this one, will it fit on here too? Of course not. Why would it do that? Yeah, I'll have to find something else. They don't have to be the same anyway. Doesn't matter. My glue book is getting kind of gross here. And the problem with this one is when I stitch all over this, you're going to kind of lose your writing space. So this tag's more of a decoration than a actual tag. I guess you could stitch it first and then put it on some thicker paper, and then that way you wouldn't have the stitches on the back, but I didn't think of it until I put all the glue on the back. So we're just going to go with it for the purposes of showing you, you know, kind of how I do this stuff. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope this is kind of what the viewer that requested was wanting, and I will show some stitching. I'll have to turn off the camera and switch my angle and all that first. Another thing you can do is strips of paper, whatever kind, and add bits of paper and fabric and whatever to it to get, I'm going to actually use this for the back of this other one. And this is just packing paper that came in a box, you know, on top of the items that I ordered. Oops, I didn't realize that was, sorry. So yeah, definitely keep that because it's very handy for lots of things. Backing, collaging, all sorts of things. I kind of like it because it wrinkles and I like that look. So yeah, if I was to do this tag again, I would stitch it first and then back it so that it can still be written on, because once I'm done, it's not going to be able to be written on very, very well. Really not at all. I'll go ahead and show you an idea of a strip of, and for a lot of people this is like probably old news, like if you've been journaling for a long time, but maybe there's some things that either like jogged your memory about something you've forgotten to do, or, you know, who knows, it happens. So, because there's loads of stuff that I watch people do and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, you know. So I don't want to cut off these little things that are sticking up. And you could back it before you collage it. That would also probably be easier. But you know, why would you do that? That might make sense. Okay, so I'm just going to tear a piece of this. This is just, like I said, packing paper. And you can use really anything. You can use like these strips of paper that come off of stuff that you've torn down. It doesn't just have to be a piece of torn paper. It can be these kind of strips that have been cut off of other items. You can just add like a piece of book page. And we could add these mushrooms that we didn't use. This is really great for scrap busting. Like if you're just trying to get rid of some scraps, doing clusters, which is just little bits, or these kind of collage-y strips is another great, you know, thing to make. Let's see. I have this cool paper that came off of a book, an old book from the library. And I kind of like the little tag. Now, normally, of course, I would, what do you call it, ink all this, but I have no ink with me. I'm just going to kind of put a dab of glue in the middle because it doesn't need to be all, you know, down because it's going to get stitched and whatnot. I think I want some fabric here. So I'm just going to do this, add some fabric, and you can French it or whatever you want. I'll put this piece. Maybe we'll put some, this has some writing on it. Go this way. This is just going to hold it until it can be stitched. I want to cover up my mushroom all the way there. And I'll put this piece down. And then maybe we can put some of these threads. I know you're thinking, why did you add the page with the writing and then cover it? Well, as I've talked about lots of times, sometimes you get collaging and stuff just gets covered, like, you know, but it still is giving me a different color back there, so I'm not worried about it. Let's see. Some shorthand. And again, if you've just started, you don't have all these kind of old papers like I have, just use digital scrapbook papers, whatever, torn in little bits like this. And, you know, it will come out fine, especially if you're using fabric with it and everything. It's gonna look great. So I know it's hard when you first start because I was there. I did have quite a bit of like scrapbook paper and stuff like that because I had been crafting for years as far as paper crafting, but I didn't have a lot of old books and stuff like that. That's just come through collecting, and some people have sent me some awesome stuff that I really appreciate. But yeah, I mean, obviously we can't all just have everything that everybody else has. And, you know, it's probably good because that would get real boring if we all had the exact same stuff, right? This is just a bunch of, there's little bits of fabric, strings. It just is going to give me something under there besides just the plain background paper. I'm just going to put glue on this, and I think that'll hold that fabric bit down well enough until I can stitch it. Okay, so now I will change my angle and we will start with the sewing machine. I'll be right back. Okay, so here we are at my sewing machine. I had to go around the back side. This is kind of crazy because I can't see the camera at all. Hi. So I'm just totally winging it and hoping that the camera is visible to you guys. So I'm just putting my little tag that I made under the presser foot here, right at this corner. That's usually where I start. You can start at the bottom or wherever you're most comfortable, depending on, you know, how you like the feel of the feeding of whatever the item is through your sewing machine. I'm also standing to do this, which is a little tricky, but I've done it before this way, so. Okay, so I'm putting zigzag stitch on. The length of my stitch is set at 2. Again, I just have the basic Singer heavy duty. So I have zigzag stitch and straight stitch. That's basically it. So I'm just gonna feed it through there. And then I lift up my presser foot, turn it, because I'm hitting that angle of the tag right there. And sometimes I'm like, oh, that's too far over. So I kind of cheat and I just lift up my foot, or my needle, sorry, and I move it, lift the foot and move it over a little bit. Because like I said, I'm sure there are all kinds of ways that you're supposed to do this, but this is just how I do it. And again, never said I was an expert, so oopsie. See, like right there, I needed to lift up my foot to push the fabric flat against the tag again, because it was folding over onto the other part of the fabric where I didn't want it. Otherwise you'd be able to see the paper underneath. So I just kind of, you know, go to the end there. You can stop on the left like Gail says. It never works out right for me, so I just, when it gets near the bottom, I stop it and turn it. And, I mean, it does work. I have done it sometimes. I'm just not probably as good at this as she is, so. And I'm turning it again, and I am too far over again, so I'm gonna lift up my foot, move it where I want it. And I'm just going to do zigzag all the way on this one. You could definitely do like a straight stitch line too. And now I'm going to move it again. My needle wasn't down. It's better to move it with the needle down into the fabric and paper, just so that it obviously doesn't move. But I've kind of gotten used to where I need it to be, so I don't worry about that as much. But when you're just starting, I would definitely, you know, put the needle down into the item and turn it that way. Lift your foot and turn it so that it's staying where it was. But like I said, I've done a few of these, so, and I backstitch when I finish. But you don't have to. You can just stop. It's a tag. It's not as big of a deal as far as like a pocket would be. When you're stitching a pocket onto a page, you definitely want to backstitch so that it stays down. So I have all these raw edges and loose fabric, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch around those now, and I just kind of pick a spot and start. You can go more methodically if you know how you want to do that. I'm switching to a straight stitch and putting my stitch length at 4, and I'm going to back stitch, and then I'm going to turn and go up. And maybe like half, I mean, not even halfway, whatever. I'm going to switch over to a zigzag and change my stitch length to 2. I just like the length of 2 for my zigzag. And then I'll lift up my needle again and change it back to straight and 4. Just make sure your needle is up when you're switching your stitch length and your the stitch, because you can break your needle if you're switching the needle back and forth when it's down through whatever it is you're, you know, using. And now I'm back to a straight stitch. And backwards and forwards. And I didn't stay in perfect line. I did that, you know, I wanted it sort of off just because I like the look of that. But you can do it how you like it. And then I just come back again. I probably could have gone and turned around and stayed and not had to change my stitch, but I'm going to go straight stitch, and then this little gray piece of fabric ends right here, so I'm turning, and I'm going to go all the way across it, and then I'm going to back stitch to where the tan little ticket is there. And again, I turned it without my needle down, but I'm not worried about it. I'm gonna be too far that way. So I'm gonna put my needle down. I just backed up a little bit. And I'm gonna go across this one. And the back stitch. And sometimes you have to manually move stuff to get it where you want it if you're like me. If you're really good at sewing, then you probably won't have that problem. And this one I'm just kind of moving around because my fabric isn't totally straight. Because I put the fold in it. Okay, and I'm going to take that out. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little stitch across here just to keep this fold down a little bit more. But if you liked it the way it was, then you can leave it. I just want to run, I actually need to run across the bottom of this fabric. See, sometimes when you're stitching these pieces on, you forget one. Just go back and I'm going to go down this side too because I forgot the green right here. And I'm going at a weird angle. But I'm not worried about that. Okay, so then I wanted to do a stitch through this, so I'm just going to turn it where I want it and go backwards. Oops, what am I doing? Lift the foot, do this, and then go backwards. Okay. And I do that kind of stuff all the time because I'm a dingbat. And then I just snip all my little threads. And if you like to leave some threads, you can definitely do that. Sorry, I know I'm not totally in camera, but anyway, I'm hoping you guys can see this because I can't tell what you're seeing right now. So hopefully you can see, and then you can see all the stitches on the back. So you can do that however you like. All right, let's do our little cluster strip here. And these are like way simple. So if you're just starting, this might be a super fun thing. Just make a big long strip and do these. I'm gonna do zigzag at 2 again, because you can just go right down. Okay, and then I'm gonna turn it. And you don't have to go across it like this. You can just go down and straight down kind of thing. You can also, I'm going to lift up my needle, change it to a straight stitch. And then you can just move your fabric or paper this way and that way to get kind of, you know, the crazy zigzaggy look. Actually turn it this way. And then I'm going to just keep turning and moving. So you can choose to do the straight like I did the first time, or you can do this, mix it up like I just did. And this is really where you don't need to worry a whole lot about having your needle down to turn it, because it's not that big of a deal. So see, my needle's up, I can turn it however I want. And then just make sure your press foot's down when you go to sew. I've done that several times. Forgot to put my press foot down. So these are super easy. Like I said, if you're just starting, that is a super easy, fun thing to do, because you can just go all over and you don't have to worry, oh, I went crooked, or oh, I changed my stitch, or whatever. It's not a big deal. Learning to sew this way is like super forgiving. So I hope I held that tag so you guys could see it, because I can't even tell what I'm holding there. I know you can see this part, that I know. Okay, so then we have our little journaling card, and we did back it. And this one's going to be super simple, because these I mostly just stitch around. So I have it on zigzag at 2, and I'm just going to go straight across And I'm going to lift my foot and make sure that fabric is the way that I want it, that little piece of ribbon. So if you're coming up on something and you don't like the way it looks, you can just, lift your needle, lift up your presser foot, and, you know, tuck it if you're making, you know, tucked pleats or whatever. And just take your time. You don't have to stitch super fast. If you're not confident in that, you can go slow. I go slow a whole lot because I'm not great at it. And I change to a straight stitch, and then I'm going to stop about there with my needle up, change to a zigzag. And then we're going to pick up our needle, change to straight again. Because this is something a lot of people do. They don't do that. Don't do that. I went way too close down there. So I needed to move my card over a little bit. So I'm just gonna clip it there and start again at the corner with the zigzag. And I'm still on a straight. You know how you'll see people do the straight and the zigzag together. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. I mostly use this cream colored thread, but you can use black, any color you like. I just like this cream color for most everything because it just seems to go with whatever. And changing to a straight stitch again. The problem with using a tiny straight stitch, like the length of the stitch being like a 2 on a straight stitch, is that it just kind of perforates the paper and you can just end up with, like, you know, essentially perforated paper that you will just tear. So that's why I do that way. So see this one, I just did zigzag, straight, zigzag, straight, zigzag, zigzag, straight. So that is that one. This is this one. I guess I can come around over here so you guys can see better. So I know I'm looking in the camera. Okay, you probably could see it. There's that one. And then this one's just fun with stitches all this way and that way, wonky, wiggly. You can see on the back even better. They're just every which way. And then this one. You can see, so like this one, you're not going to be able to really write on. You might be able to write a little something right down at the bottom, but so if I were to do this normally, I would do the stitching all on the front and then add my piece of cardstock to the back after I stitched it. That way someone could still write on it if they wanted to. So I hope this was helpful. And again, I am not an expert at sewing, but yeah, I just wanted to show you guys. So I will see you again tomorrow. Love you guys. Talk later.